Steve Pettingill. I'm a member of the South Fork Disc Golf Club. I've been a member for the club for about, I think this is going on my third year now, so since the first year they had it. I was asked to put together an in the bag video, and so here I am, and let's go ahead and get started. So now I actually have an Nova disc golf bag. I think this is just the standard bag, one of their smaller bags, not the smallest that they have, but definitely not one of the bigger bags that they have as well. I've actually been kind of looking around to see if I could get a bigger bag because I've kind of outgrown this one. This one's pretty full most of the time, and so I'd like to get a bigger bag. But this one's done me a pretty good job up till now. It's kind of nice not having to carry a great big bag around, and so this one's done a pretty good job for me. Typically inside of here, I've got my discs. On the side I've got a pocket where I've got a towel in case my discs get wet. I land in rivers a lot, so I can clean those up. On the other side I've got a spot for a drink. I actually keep in here balls that I can throw. In case I get a disc stuck in a tree, I've got 2 or 3 baseball, golf ball things in here that I can throw up there to try to get a disc down. But if I wanted, I could use that for holding a water bottle or a pop or something like that when I'm out. So, but I typically don't do that. I don't keep a lot in here other than my discs otherwise. So initially I have my marker disc. I just got this one. This is comes from the ice bowl. I just finished the ice bowl just a couple days ago. And so this is the marker disc I got out of that. Kind of a pretty disc. It's pink, sticks out, so it works pretty well for me. So let's go ahead and get started looking at my discs. I've actually got a couple putters. I've got an AVR putter that I use primarily. This is a DX plastic from Nova. I like this disc. This has worked pretty well for me most of the time. I also have a Birdie, which is also a DX plastic from Nova. This was the first putter I had. I really liked it. One of the things you'll notice about it is it's pretty square, as far as the edges. And the thing I found about it, I really liked it and I still do, if it's not a windy day. Works really well, goes very straight, just works really well for me. However, in Idaho, which is where we're at, it's windy most of the time, and I find that with the thicker rim and the boxier like this, that the wind seems to push it up and down. Wind really affects it a lot more. So most of the time I use an AVR putter. I find it cuts through the wind a little better. And even on a really windy day, I'll use my mid-range to putt with, but this is what I use for the most part. To putt with is my AVR putting approach, and those have worked really well for me. If we move on from my putters, we'll move on to some of my mid-range discs. I've got a few in here. First one I've got is a Dynamic Disc Suspect. I actually won this one at a doubles tournament last summer. I haven't used it a ton yet. I'm still trying to get used to it. It is a 0.3 as far as a turn and fade. So it's kind of a short mid-range. It always seems to come back. I haven't had it turn over on me much. I really like this. It's a pretty disc. It's black with red. I have a few times kind of lost it in the grass because of the dark color. I throw it out there and I just can't seem to find it. But I do like the way that it flies, especially for those short mid-range kind of shots. This one's worked really well for me. Again, I'm trying to get to know this one a little bit because I just got it last summer and just haven't really had a chance to use it much. The second one I have in here is a Legacy Disc Ghost. I also got this one at the same tournament last summer. I won that in a raffle, I believe. But I've really liked this one. I actually use it more than I use the Suspect. It's also a kind of a short mid-range. I think it's a 0.3 as far as the turn and on it. So it's one that typically is straight and gonna hook at the end. And I've liked this one actually a little bit more than my Suspect. As I use this one, I typically can get around little obstacles on the shorter shots. It does kind of hook back a little bit. And so I've liked this one. This is a little bit a heavier disc. It's a 179 grams on that. So anyway, I've liked this one a lot as well. Again, trying to get used to this one. My favorite disc was actually it's a Whippet. And I'm keeping this one in my bag just to show you. At the ice bowl the other day, I hit a tree and it broke in half, as you can see there. But this was my absolute all-time favorite disc that I have in my bag. I use this one a lot. This is the mid-range disc that I would use for putting on a really, really windy day. I also use this one for, well, I used it for most of my mid-range approaches, shots. Probably half of my shots I throw were thrown with this disc. This is a Pro Whippet, which they no longer make. I'm going to have to try to see if I can find one online. I want to replace this one. It was actually a 0.5, so this is a very overstable disc, very hard hooking. It worked really well on some of the holes in Freeman, and just anytime you needed to get around an obstacle, you knew it was coming back and it was going to come around those trees. So I use this one a lot. Again, I'm going to have to look online, see if I can find a new one. I know they make it in the DX plastic, but I'd like to get it in Pro, which they used to make. I don't think they do anymore. And so I'm going to have to probably do some looking online, see if eBay's got it or somewhere that somebody would be willing to sell. Because again, this was my all-time favorite disc. Pretty bummed that it broke. I think the cold weather and then hitting the tree from very close range didn't help on that one. So the next one I have in here, this is actually, I just barely got this one on Saturday. This is a KC Pro Rock, and I'm pretty excited about that. I think this will be a pretty good replacement from what I've heard. This is a very good mid-range disc, also kind of a straight, but yet very kind of an overstable disc. Heard a lot of good things about the Pro Rock, and so I'm excited to have that one in my bag. I'll start using that one here. As soon as it warms up a little bit, I start playing a little bit more. The next mid-range I have it's actually an Innova disc. This is a DX plastic, but it's a Cobra multi-purpose disc. This one's a little bit bigger if you compare it to some of the other discs in diameter. It's actually a little bit bigger in diameter than most discs that you have in your bag. You can probably see that stick over the top. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I just noticed that it's a little bit bigger disc. It's a pretty straight disc. This was one of the very first discs I ever got. I used it all the time. In fact, I learned how to throw a backhand with this disc because it was just so straight. I could get up there anywhere I needed to throw it. It would just go straight as could be. As it's kind of worn over time, it's kind of gotten a little more understable. So as I throw it, it kind of turns over on me occasionally. But I still throw this a lot, especially if I need a good straight shot. Don't have a lot of room for it to hook. This is a really good disc to use. Again, Cobra multi-purpose disc, and I like that one a lot. I've actually got 2 of those. The other one I have just as a backup. Lend it out to friends and things, but occasionally I'll put it in my bag as well. So from there we'll jump into my drivers. The first one I have is a Pro Wraith. I got this one, it's been a long time back, I think back in 2007. I played in a doubles tournament back in 2007 here in Idaho Falls, and my team, we ended up getting third, got a prize, and this is what I picked out, was a Wraith. I'd heard a lot of good things about it, and this is a Pro Wraith. It's held up pretty well for me, considering I've had it for 7-8 years. A few dings and marks on it, but it's held up really well. I still use this one in quite a few occasions. It gets some pretty good distance on it, but most of the time I can't throw it quite as far as some of my other discs, so it just kind of depends on the distance and then also the flight. I don't know if it's supposed to, but I get a pretty good S-curve out of this one, so as long as I throw it correctly, get a little anhyzer on it, it gets a nice S on it. I'm able to get some good distance and get around obstacles that I need to there. So again, I have this one in my bag. I don't use it super often, but it's a good disc. It's a 170, so I also will bust that out if I've got a good tailwind. That one works pretty well for me. The next one I have is a Champion Beast. This is one of the first real discs I purchased. You know, I had some DX discs that I got, but this was my first, you know, nice plastic disc. This one's from Innova. This is a Champion Beast. I actually have two of these as well. I lost this one and lost it in the river, waited a few weeks for somebody to call me back and never did, so I went and bought a new one, and the very next day they called me and said they had this disc. But again, I really like this one. This one again is it's kind of an S-curve disc as well. I'm able to get, you know, just a little more distance out of it than I do my Wraith. You know, pretty similar, but about I just can throw this one a little better. It works better. I like to throw a forehand, and when I flick it, I seem to get this one to go a little bit further. I also use this one for any time I do a tomahawk or a thumber. It seems to work pretty well for me as far as getting over trees, things like that. So this is the one I typically use for that. Occasionally I'll use this for a roller as well, and it seems to hold up pretty well. You know, keeps its line as I get it up and roll it. So the next one I have, this one's pretty new as well. I think I've had this one for about 1.5 years. This is a Star Boss from Innova. I've really liked this one. This one's a lot bigger distance. It's a 13 as far as its speed. So it's my farthest or my biggest speed disc that I have in my bag. And I'm still trying to get used to this one. I find that this one, especially if I can get the right throw on it, I can get a lot of distance out of this disc. Sometimes it does tip over on me. It's only a -1.3 as far as its turn, but turn and fade. But it's still, if I don't get it, you know, a little bit of anhydride or a little bit of tip on there, it'll just tip right over on me sometimes. So especially with my forehand, if I throw a backhand, it doesn't tip over on me as much, but with my forehand it does. The other thing I found on this disc, even though I really like it and I like the distance I get out of it, it's got a pretty sharp lip on the bottom of it, and so I had to I got some sandpaper out and took that edge off of it, and it works pretty well for me now. But it was pretty sharp compared to a lot of the other discs I've had, so I actually had a few cuts when I first started throwing it that it gave me. So, but again, really like this one. Again, if it's a good open shot and I'm needing some distance, this is the disc I throw. So that's one I use. The last disc that I have in my bag, and it's probably my second favorite disc besides my Whippet. Now it's probably my favorite disc since my Whippet's broken. But it's a Champion Monster from Innova. Love this disc. This is again a very overstable disc. I think it's a 0.4 on its turn and fade. So you know, I don't get quite the distance I can get out of my Boss. But this is a disc that I know constantly it's going to come back on me, especially here in Idaho, especially when we're fighting the winds. It's a heavier disc and always comes back. Just no matter what I throw, it always comes back. So I use this one a lot. It's a good straight disc, and then it just kind of comes back, and there's a lot of holes where, you know, you just need to hug the tree line and kind of hook it back, you know, forehand, backhand, and this is the disc I use for both of those situations. So really like this disc. You know, between this and my Whippet, this is probably 75% of my throws were between these two discs. Yeah, again, it probably comes back to the fact we live in Idaho and there's a lot of wind here, but they're both very overstable discs. They just kind of match my throwing style, and so I've learned to throw those really well. And really like them. So, I guess that's it. I don't carry a lot of discs. Again, I think when I get a bigger bag, I'll include a lot more. I've got a bunch of others that I just can't fit into my bag when I'm going out because I need a little bit bigger bag. But that's my disc. That's my bag. Hopefully it's useful to you. Hopefully you found it beneficial. So, again, my name's Pettingill, member of South Fork Disc Golf.